Hi madam, I'm Sylvia from Group 24 and today our group would like to present about impact of COVID-19 outbreak on tourism in Malaysia. And let's start our introduction. Tourism is a social, cultural and economic phenomenon which entails the movement of people to countries or places outside their usual environment for personal, business or professional purpose. Tourism is also the act or process of leaving home to seek entertainment, relaxation and pleasure while taking the advantage of the service provided by business. It also includes the theory and practice of touring, the business of attracting, accommodating and entertaining tourists, and the business of tourism management. Coronavirus disease caused by several acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 is an emerging viral respiratory pathogen. This disease first appeared in China in 2019, then spread all over the world, causing a devastating global pandemic in 2020. Covid-19 virus is mainly transmitted from person to person through droplet transmission. Covid-19 leads to a series of clinical diseases ranging from asymptomatic infection to a mild self-limiting disease. Most people will fully recover, but a few patients will have even more serious consequences. It is the strongest predictor of the death of the elderly over 80 years old, increasing to 15% or higher. Treatment plan in COVID-19 is still developing, and many promising COVID-19 vaccines have been developed. But the long-term effect of this vaccine on the pandemic are uncertain.
Good day to my lecturer and my friends. My name is Chang Pang Xiong. Now I will present about the impacts of COVID-19 on tourism in Malaysia. And for my part is Impact 1. In December of this year, China reported an unidentified pneumonia outbreak. The outbreak has escalated into a global public health emergency. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) identified a seafood market in Wuhan as the potential epicenter of the pandemic in early January 2020. On January 25, 2020, the first case of new coronary pneumonia in Malaysia was verified, involving 3 Chinese citizens who arrived in Johor Bahru via Singapore on January 23, 2020. A total of 170,000 hotel room reservations were cancelled between January 2020 and March 2020, resulting in a revenue loss of more than 60 million ringgit. The new pneumonia pandemic is directly responsible for the lost hotel cancellations, resulted in a loss of revenue of more than 20 million ringgit, followed by a loss of revenue of more than 10 million ringgit in Sabah. Sarawak is the state that has been least affected by the new pneumonia. During this time, just 76 rooms were cancelled, resulting in a loss of less than 23 million ringgit. The employees in the Kuala Lumpur hotel industry have been impacted worse by the outbreak, according to statistics on room cancellations, and the 542 workers were fired out of a total of 17,000 workers, accounting for 3% of the total. At the same time, 3,641 workers were forced to take unpaid leave, while 2,888 workers saw their salary cut.
Hi, I'm Tasia. I would like to talk about impact of COVID-19 on tourism in Malaysia, about impact 2. My point is, employment from tourism is threatened. The tourism industry is at a standstill. The industry recovery cannot be until the public health emergency is under control and travel restriction can be saved life. The harder it is for companies to survive, especially for small and medium-sized enterprises that account for a large portion of the tourism ecosystem, the greater the pressure of employees. As the day passed, the tourism industry watched as its sources of income dried up. As a result, people who live on tourism face the threat of layoff and unemployment. In the tourism industry, women account for 54% of the labor force. Faced with the impact of COVID-19 epidemic on the tourism industry, young and migrant workers with limited or not social security are the most vulnerable. New information about the consequences of the COVID-19 outbreak indicated that women's economy, output, and life will be disproportionately affected. Women have less disposable income and savings, and job opportunities are more unstable. Therefore, compared with men, women's ability to withstand economic shock is limited because women have fewer opportunities to obtain social security, and most single parent families are raised by women. In the low-wage sector of the tourism industry, women make up the majority of the labor force. More than that, the impact of the tourism crisis on young people is worrying, and young people around 15 to 24 years old also account for part of tourism employment. The epidemic and restriction of Malaysia's actions to fight the epidemic are the main reason for the decline in tourists. Affected by the movement restriction order, many companies have laid off employees, and the number of unemployment in Malaysia has exceeded 1 million. This includes 35,000 recent graduates who have yet to find a job. This shows that Malaysia has imposed restrictions on foreign tourists, causing the tourism industry to stagnate. This also made people in the tourism industry lose their economic reserves.
Good morning, this is Bernardo A. My ID is 1171302967. Today I'm going to talk about my part in the Malaysian economy assignment, the impact of COVID-19 on the tourism industry. Let's begin. To reduce reducing the spread of the COVID-19 virus, one of the main requirements for the citizens that followed here in Malaysia was restriction of the long distance travel ability to leave their home, city, district, region, and the country, so that the tourism industry going down and everywhere. Of course, such as restriction have primarily subsided the tourism both globally and nationally, which has negatively impacted almost on all the sectors of the economy, and especially the global tourism industry. Countries such as Malaysia, among the others, have been most affected by the pandemic. Malaysia, known as the genetic tourism, and the significant contribution of the tourism to the countries and economic growth. Nearly 100,000 Malaysians have been lost their jobs since the start of the movement control, the MCO. Around 90, the human resource ministry reveals that they said that 99 and 696 Malaysians have lost their jobs since the implementation of the movement control order in March up to till the 27th of November. And that, of course, made the tourism industry going down because of the pandemic, and that's what happened in Malaysia for the tourism industry, and many people lost their jobs because of the movement control. Yeah, thank you.
Good day to my dear lecturer and my dear friends. My name is Liu Wan Yi. Today I will present about the title of impact of COVID-19 on tourism in Malaysia. For me, I have a presentation about the impact 4. So let's start. My point of impact is the Prime Minister of Malaysia announced the 4 force of movement control order, that's called MCO, as they expected the number of COVID-19 cases would continue to increase. During the MCO, we further contract Malaysia tourism industry and therefore effective the policy to assist the industry player and imperative. A 3-hour meeting was held today, chaired by both the Minister of Finance, YB Tuan Lim Guan Eng, and the Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, YB Datuk Mohammadin bin Ketapi, with key tourism industry stakeholders all affected by the current economic situation caused by the spread of the 2019 COVID-19 pandemic coronavirus. The meeting was called by the Ministry of Finance in preparation of government stimulus package for the tourism industry.
Good day to Malaysia and to all my friends. My name is Muhammad Azim Azamuddin Azmi, and I would like to present the impact COVID-19 on tourism in Malaysia. And my part is conclusion. In this conclusion, we have found and have examined that the impact of COVID-19 on tourism in Malaysia has greatly affected on our country, where the income from each state, especially the state that focuses on the tourism sector, and also our country has suffered a relatively bad impact. From the observation, it involves almost all hotels throughout Malaysia are affected and has recorded a total of 170 and 84 hotel rooms. Booking has been cancelled from the beginning of the year until the mid of the year 2020. Furthermore, this is more severe when many tourism sectors in our country have gone through many obstacles, while this also has a lot of impact on unemployment. Unemployment in the tourism sector has been hit at a severe rate, where the World Tourism Organization has estimated at least 80% of earnings from the world tourism has declined, and as many as 120 million jobs worldwide involving tourism have been lost. The government measure to assist and stabilize the tourism sector. The government also provide financial assistance to Malaysians affected during this pandemic season. The government also held a tourism sector assistance initiative called Pemulih, where the government deferred monthly income tax, installment tourism tax exemption and service tax, and allocated RM60 million to assist those involved in the tourism sector. Also allocated RM200 million for the continuation and rehabilitation of the Plan Pemulus Pelancongan. The opinion. All parties should play an important role to match the problems when hit by the pandemic COVID-19, especially the government, to restore the tourism sector and industry in our beloved country of Malaysia. All Malaysians should also play an important role in competing with this COVID-19, which is increasingly seen as quite worrying, and every citizen must abide by all government orders, that is to comply with every SOP that has been implemented by the government to compete with this COVID-19. That's all for me. Thank you.
What are the treatment plans in COVID-19 is still developing. At present, the strongest evidence is that the use of systematic corticosteroid has reduced the mortality rate of patients with moderate to severe COVID-19. Given the epidemiological nature of COVID-19, early surgery planning and expansion of the basic capacity of staff and hospital beds are essential.
Why can our hotels businesses in Malaysia lose so much of their revenue? And the answer is this is because of foreign tourists cannot enter to our country because of pandemic outbreak COVID-19.
In Q&A section, the question is, what impact will the closure of the tourism industry have? In my opinion, the closure of the tourism industry will not only affect Malaysia's economy, but will also cause more and more people in tourism industry to become unemployed, including singles, ladies, and young people.
So let's continue about the question part. For the question is, which country are the outbreak of COVID-19 has exposed a major risk to visit Malaysia in 2020? So in my opinion, the outbreak of COVID-19 has exposed a major risk to visit the Malaysia 2020 campaign, as 50% of Malaysia tourists are originate from Malaysia, Singapore, and China. The increasing case of COVID-19 in both countries has led to the cancellation of metro, which has already led to a large drop in the number of tourists in Malaysia. So that's all. It's my presentation. Thank you.